sign off, I would just like to say this. In our many interactions as family with Professor B.ர, he used to tell all of us, the human brain is like a Rolls-Royce car, but we use it like an auto. In Tamil he used to say, Soodu Jasti, Shabdam Jasti. It translates as something that generates a lot of heat and noise. So I sign off with a prayer and a wish that we all, as Professor Ramamurthy said, remember the Rolls-Royce inside us and lead very healthy and happy lives. I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We invite Dr. K. Sridhar to say a few words about his guru, Professor B. Ramamurthy.
It is always an honor for me to say something about Professor Ramamurthy. But the point is, where do I start? Where do I finish? It's not very simple for me, especially, and having known him all my life. But we have to introduce him to the generations who may not have had the opportunity to interact with him. Many of us have had that opportunity and we are grateful for that. And I offer this short film as a samarpanam to my guru. May I have the film?
At a time when the country was simmering in freedom fever, a spark of genius named Ramamurthy was born on 30th 1922 into an illustrious family. Heeding the advice of his father, the young Ramamurthy joined the Madras Medical College in 1938 and had a brilliant academic career. He was steered into the then uncharted territory of neurosurgery by his surgical master and mentor, Dr. Narasimhaiah. Selected by the Madras government to train in neurosurgery under Robotham, he reached Newcastle upon Tyne on 2nd January 1949. He learnt the ropes from the British, American, European and Canadian schools of neurosurgery. Armed with such vivid knowledge in neurosurgery, Professor Ramamurthy embarked on a new journey back home in India and joined the unit of Sangam Lal on Vijayadashami.
General Hospital of 1950, one of the best hospitals in the country, not having a suction apparatus. Somehow we put it together, and that machine used to make such a thundering noise that the whole hospital used to vibrate, and people used to say, there is Ramamurthy operating.
The visit of Lawrence Walsh and Dennis Williams from Queen Square, London in the early 1960s helped establish the Madras School of Stereotaxy. In 1967, a separate head injury ward was established, the first of its kind in India. And in 1970, his dream of setting up an institute similar to what he saw at Montreal was realized. He served as the director of the Institute of Neurology and was principal of the Madras Medical College till his retirement in 1978. Not resting on his laurels, he went on to create another center of excellence in Madras, the Dr. A. Lakshmipathy Neurosurgical Center at the Voluntary Health Services Hospital. An ardent teacher, many students have been trained under Chief, as he was called, both at MIN and at VHS. Sensing the need to streamline neurological sciences as a specialty, Professor B.р., together with Drs. Jacob Chandy, S.T. Narasimhan and Baldev Singh, started the Neurological Society of India in 1951 at Madras. Anywhere you went in the world, India was known as Ramamurthy's country, and he spread the word of Indian neurosurgery throughout the world. The WFNS and the WFN were held in India in 1989 when Professor B.R. became the honorary president of the WFNS. He worked hard to spread awareness amongst public about common neurological problems like epilepsy, head injury, and meningomyelocele.
நம்ம தலை இந்த எலும்பு கூட்டுக்குள்ள ஒரு 1.5 கிலோகிராம் மூளைன்னு ஒன்று இருக்குது. ஸோ இந்த மூளைங்கிறது முக்கியமானதுன்னு ரொம்ப நேரம் தெரியாது. மூளை இருந்தாங்கன்னா இல்லாமனா என்னங்கிற ஆட்டிடியூட் தான் தலையில் அடிபடுறதுனோட விபத்து தெரியாது. மூளையினோட குணம் எப்படின்னா இந்த அடிபட்டுச்சுன்னா மூளையில் திரும்பி வளராது, பாக்கி எல்லாம் வளரும். இதயத்தில் கூட சுற்றிட்டாக்க கையில் போட்டால் அது வேலை செய்யும். மூளையில் அடிபட்டுச்சுன்னா மூளை ரப்சர் ஆகிட்டா மறுபடியும் அது வளர முடியும்.
Many awards and titles were conferred upon him, and he had the rare distinction of being elected as the fellow of all 3 science academies of India. The greatness of the man we all know as DRM or Chief was in his persona. The person who would always make it a point to talk to the junior neurosurgeons and encourage them. The person who saw a massive shift in technology during his lifetime and not only accepted it but also encouraged his associates to develop their skills.
I think it has been the most revolutionary step in the success of modern neurosurgery, because the brain, as you know, is a very delicate structure. Even a 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter mistake can damage some function or other in the brain. That accuracy was not possible with the naked eye. We, of course, used to use looking glass, magnifying glass to operate. But then, when the microscope came, the picture changed entirely. The neurosurgeon can see even very small blood vessels which supply vital structures, can identify them and then avoid them, not damage them. In the olden day, when we did not have a microscope, many small vessels had to be sacrificed. But with microsurgery, we are able to save a large number of savable structures. Our surgery has become more accurate. That is why the morbidity, that is the suffering of the patient, has gone down enormously in the last 10 years compared to last 40 years.
He constantly encouraged the next generation to step up and carry the torch forwards.
Here we have to take on. The younger generation is very enthusiastic. The new technology is very good. So they will take on.
The person who touched the lives of many with a kind word, a personal gesture, with fatherly advice, with mentorship, and so much more. Professor B.ர, DRM, or Chief, however you may call him, he is still with us, with all of us, in his students, in the legacy of his work, and the countless lives that he has touched.
A heartwarming tribute it was. We now request Dr. K. Sridhar to introduce Sri Gopalakrishna Gandhi and invite him to deliver the oration.
Good afternoon, and it's my really very proud privilege to introduce the orator for 2025, Sri Gopalakrishna Gandhi. The truth is, I have been trying to get him on the stage for the last 3 to 4 years, and because of his busy schedules, somehow the dates have never matched, and I'm really thankful that he's here today. Thank you, sir. The grandson of Mahatma Gandhi and Sri Rajgopalachari, Sri Gopalakrishna Gandhi was born in April 1945 in Delhi to Sri Devdas and Lakshmi Gandhi. He is the Distinguished Professor of History, Department of History and Politics at the Ashoka University, Sonpet, Haryana, and the Distinguished Visiting Professor at the National Law University, Hyderabad. an administrator by training with the IAS Tamil Nadu cadre. His working career has included public administration, diplomacy, and the exercise of constitutional responsibility. He has been Secretary to the Governor of Tamil Nadu, Secretary to the Vice President of India, and Secretary to the President of India, and then the Director of the Nehru Center at the Indian High Commission of India, London. He has also served as the High Commissioner for India in South Africa, Lesotho, and Sri Lanka, and the Ambassador of India in Norway and Ireland. He was then the Governor of the state of West Bengal from 2004 to 2009 and served a short stint as an acting Governor of Bihar. The University of Natal, South Africa conferred a doctorate of laws honoris causa. So did the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka, and then the University of North Orissa and many other such universities. He received the Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan Award from the University of Mysore in 2016, the Lal Bahadur Shastri Award in 2016, and the Rajiv Gandhi Sadbhavana Award in 2018. Sri Gopal Krishna Gandhi is also a columnist with the Hindustan Times, the Telegraph, and writes from time to time in the Hindu. He and his wife, Tara Gandhi, an ornithologist and a nature conservationist, divide their time between Chennai, Bangalore, and Kannur. They have 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters, and there's so much more, but he warned me that please keep it short because audience listening time is, the attention span is very short, so don't take it beyond a few lines. So sir, it is our honor to have you address us and deliver the B.ர Oration 2025.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sheila, for this generous introduction. And thank you for the invitation to be here today with all of you. I must commence with offering my respect and tribute to the memory of Dr. B.ர and Dr. Indira, who are the inspiration for our host today and for so much that has gone into the planning of this conference as well. I must not omit to mention Dr. Ramamurthy's colleague, Dr. Rajagopal, who was his anesthetist, for I know how crucial anesthesia is to surgery. Dr. Rajagopal was a remarkable person whom I had the privilege of meeting and knowing. There are 5 persons, I believe, 5 categories of persons before whom one has to speak only the truth and nothing but the truth. One's mother, one's wife, one's auditor, one's lawyer, and one's doctor. For if one does not speak the truth to these 5, the truth will be found out by them in any case. And if it takes time to be found out, it will take that much more time for the truth to remain truthful. Otherwise it can do great harm. And so seeing this large gathering of doctors, I have to speak the truth, which is you must reserve your symptoms of anger, of which elevated systoles, missed heartbeats, trembling fingers, arched mouth, and very often a loss of physical balance are most prominent. The tongue and mouth going dry are one phenomenon, but the mind then is capable of unleashing a torrent of words from this subconscious dictionary of abusive words that lie dormant in the mind. It is well known that words that would embarrass us if seen written against our names are the kind of words that do escape us. We have in our midst today a very distinguished judge, former judge. She knows exactly, Justice Prabhaswamy, what abuse means, even in terms of neurologies and criminal codes. I will not inflict on this gathering quotations from others, for that is a very tedious form of speaking and a very tedious form of listening. But I will say this, that the great, truly great word in Tamil has words to describe anger, in which Valluvar says that of the many slips on the slope of life's slippery slips, the many slips, on the slope of life's slippery slips, the worst is the careless word that passes through our lips. And then he says, chapter 13, the blistering welt of a fiery rod may in time congeal, but the withering lash of a scaling tongue will never ever heal. So that is what we are capable of doing. I have a total of 20 minutes, of which I have spent now more than 7. So I'll keep a very strict watch on my watch. Just to say that there are basically 3 kinds of anger, plus 1. And I will start with the plus 1 first, which is anger at oneself. Anger over oneself at what one has done or said, which is very often behind one's show of anger. One can be blisteringly angry at something or somebody, but the root of it is anger with oneself. I am certainly speaking for myself. But there are, as the doctor in oneself would say, ways of getting over one's anger with oneself by the very simple method of remorse, apology, and atonement. There is a famous song by Elton John called Sorry is the hardest word. Sorry is the hardest word. It truly is. I do not know if in the gathering today here there are delegates from Australia. I know that in the conference there are delegates from Australia. But if they are still at this session today present, I would like to say that the apology given by Prime Minister Kevin Rudd to the original residents of Australia, in which he said, I am sorry, and he said it in Parliament, I am sorry for what we have done. He was sublimating the anger at oneself of a superior Australian thought and presenting it to history. I must also say on this occasion something which is very real and very touching has to be said very honestly. As I said, we are in a believe how a human being can possibly rise to that level and say, I have no anger in me. I bow my head to that family. They happen to be Australian. And today, with Australians present here today, I would like to say that as a country and as society, all of us felt deeply grieved and hurt, and offered our apologies, which I repeat today. Anger was sublimated. There is personal anger, there is individual anger, and personal and individual anger can become collective anger, and collective anger is also seen very often as anger coming from this state. But in the aspect of personal anger, insult of one's appearance, to insult somebody for how she or he looks, how she or he is attired, how she or he works, insult of one's profession, insult of one's language, one's identity, one's religion, and of course, insult of one's family. These are triggers of huge anger which we must understand as being at the root of many forms of anger. And the Wily way of anger has the wiliest of them in the form of fire for fire, return anger for anger, vengeance, perpetuating anger. I have not been able to control my anger in many of these situations, though fortunately I have been saved some of the insults that I have mentioned. The perceived threat to one's ethnicity, to symbols of one's own religious identity, to events and symbols of food, of festivals in India, trigger mass anger. And they cannot but trigger those bursts of anger. And in the interest of law and order, the state shows its own kind of anger to suppress the inflammation of human feelings. Consequence of court orders, convictions and sentencings also lead to what may be called an expression of anger in the shape of controlled and legal immobilizations of persons. War in its many faces is a sign of anger. Investigative overloads, overdrives, and custodial torture are forms of what may be called not acceptable state anger. But in all these aspects, anger is in its deleterious aspect. I shall now come to the final, say 5 or 7 minutes to say that anger has its uses as well. This is a slightly unexpected thing to say. Can anger possibly have some good in it? Let me say why I think there is good news in anger too. It is like this. When Nelson Mandela was in prison, there were occasions when he was hugely angry. Let us not make the mistake of thinking that Nelson Mandela was born with a halo on his head and he said, peace at any cost. I forgive everybody. I have no malice. Of course he had no malice. category of anger has a line of products which is called swear words, and those swear words have a further line of products which concentrate, alas, and I will be forgiven for saying so, on human genitalia. This particular commander looked at Mandela, referred to Mandela's mother, and in Mandela's own language used an Afrikaans word which was, in Mandela's words, a vulgar term for an intimate part of a woman's anatomy. What do you expect a man like Mandela to do? He was furious, and he proceeded like any human being would to get at this commander physically. I think Mandela was fortunate in that the commander, seeing this man approach, quickly got into a car and disappeared from the scene. Otherwise, he would have been, I think, very sorry for himself. And Mandela probably would have had his jail term extended by so many more years. But then, Mandela being Mandela says, and I use the word Wily way of anger, not quoting him, that's my phrase. But Wily ways can also be very wise ways. And so he just ruminated on what had happened. And Mandela says, as only he could have, later, after my anger abated, I realized that Badenhorst, that was the commander, he was not evil. His inhumanity had been foisted upon him by an inhuman system. He behaved like a brute because he was rewarded for his brutish behavior. And so when we are likely to be provoked by something which is hideous, we should remember that the person who is provoking us is very likely to be a victim of circumstances more in need of our pity than of our anger. And in saying so and doing so, we save ourselves from returning his compliment in his own very debased coin. Friends, I shall not tax your patience more beyond saying that in the Neurosurgery again is a couplet which I believe is the greatest of the Neurosurgery's couplets. It is not the best known, but believe me, it is the greatest, for it is about anger. Not to say, don't be angry. I've already quoted two Qurans which say, don't be angry, and why you should not. But this Quran 1062 is anger itself. I said, some good can come from anger. Valdur is hugely angry. Yes, Valdur himself is hugely angry. Not because somebody has insulted him, he was too big for that, but because he cannot bear the thought of poverty, that he cannot bear the thought that somebody should have to beg. And he says in 1062, and I give an English translation, as you know, the Quran starts with the Creator. And in 1062 he is again addressing the Creator. He says, may He, the Creator, yes, may He who has so fashioned this world unjust, may He that men should have to beg, may He, like them, know what it means to beg and wander accursed. If the great reformers of the world have been moved by the sight of injustice and poverty simply amounting to begging, moved to a level of anger, when that anger can be called just as there is a good cholesterol and a bad cholesterol, there can be a good anger and a bad anger. Anger as a master is brutal. Anger as a friend can work wonders, provided one knows how to hold it and how to use it. I return to my being a patient, perfectly liable to lose my anger, lose my temper, resort to anger, and if I was amongst you, I would be on the verge of getting a little angry at the length of the speech that you had.
Thank you, sir. We request our leader to felicitate Sri Gopala Krishna Gandhi with a memento as a token of our respect.
Sir, please. Sir, one more, ready, sir? Straight, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. To formally express our gratitude, I now invite Dr. Ashwin Sridhar to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to first thank our very gracious orator, Sri Gopala Krishna Gandhi sir, for honoring us this afternoon. I would also like to thank all of you who have gathered here to remember this great personality, Professor B.р. I would like to thank our accommodation partner, Hotel Taj Wellington News, with the industry support for the event. I would like to thank the audiovisual support, Mandishwara Enterprises, the neurosciences team of Kaveri Hospital Radial Road, the management team at Kaveri Hospital Radial Road. I would also like to thank our friends from the press and media for being here today. I would like to thank everyone here, including the delegates, for attending this 3-day event. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. With this, we come to the end of a very enlightening oration. A big thank you to this lovely audience, and please do join us for lunch. Thank you and namaste.